I did not lose a bet. For those that are wondering about my jacket, I am proudly displaying the spoils of my victory this year in the 5th major, a golf tournament that I play in each year for the last 15 years with other Michigan coaches that I came up in the profession with. And I thought this would be a great week to wear this jacket. Notably, Tom Curley at Michigan Tech, Heath Otterbein at Hillsdale College are part of this tournament that I'm in. So this is the jacket that you win, and I am proudly wearing it today. I thought it had some Notre Dame blue in it. This would be a great week to wear it, especially Michigan week. So for those that are part of the Plaid Open, which it is called the Plaid Open, that's why we have a plaid jacket that goes to the winner. I thought this would be a great week to wear it. What do you guys think of it? Pretty good? Yeah, we do. We do.
Did you say we moved to further action in the same series of downs?
Yes, indeed. So anyway, getting to the important items on the agenda, that is a victory this weekend against Rice. I thought our guys did a great job of playing with energy, enthusiasm. You know, with openers, certainly we've heard of the cliches of playing clean and making sure that you don't beat yourself. Certainly all coaches are going to want that, but what we wanted more than anything else is let our kids play free and fast, and I thought they did that. There's a number of things that we've got to get better at playing. The kind of opponent that we'll have with Michigan, we'll have to clean up a number of things, especially as it relates to technique and communication, but was proud of the effort. I thought we had some individual things that showed up, but I think some of the team things to point out, field position, plus 11 in field position generally equals big things when it comes to winning and losing. Those are high predictors. Plus 2 in turnover takeaway, high predictor when it comes to winning. Another thing is, you know, scoring chances when you have those opportunities to score. We did a pretty good job there. Those are high predictors for success. And then averaging 9.0 yards per play, another high predictor, explosive play. So, you know, team-wise, there are a number of predictors that are going to put you in a position to have a great chance of success. And I think finally, you know, the special teams, we had great effort. And I think that that's really the big piece that we have to continue. The great effort that we had in special teams, we're going to need that each and every week. That is going to be an important part of our success this year. If we get great effort, I think we'll have a chance to be a good football team. Moving into Michigan, I think we all know, you know, the kind of game that we're going to play here with this opponent. You know, each team knows each other very well. Certainly, they've been great games. We're playing, you know, an offense with, you know, Gardner and Funchess, a 1-2 combination that is very dynamic. Funchess now being on the perimeter is a matchup problem, and he'll be a matchup problem for everybody that he plays this year. We'll have to find ways, obviously, to slow him down. He's going to be difficult. Gardner's played great against us, you know, and so those two guys in particular, well coached on the offensive line. Doug Nussmeier, I have a lot of respect for him. Coach has done a great job when he was at Alabama, Michigan State. They've got great schemes. Their concepts are outstanding. And they do a lot on offense. They cause a lot of problems. They handle a lot of the things that defenses like to do very well. From a defensive standpoint, some seniors that have been there a while, Byer, defensive end, and Clark, I think, you know, set them up pretty well defensively. A veteran linebacker and crew, depth at the cornerback position. Greg Madison is a veteran NFL coach, and we know him here very well, obviously. And then we've faced him a number of times, and we know his attacking, aggressive style. So two teams that know each other very well. You know, a very solid and sound fundamental football team with some really game breakers on offense. I think Clark is a guy that you really have to know where he is defensively. They like to bring a lot of pressures defensively. We're going to have to do a great job of protecting our quarterback. Outstanding punter, dynamic returners. Should be a great, great game. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Coach, any update on the 5 players?
No, I have no update.
You mentioned last week that you talked to Jack about whether you'd change, let them come to meetings. Any change on that, or?
No, we haven't made that change because I haven't got any updates relative to where we are in the process and the timing of that.
So it's status quo as of right now?
Status quo.
But could it change quickly if you heard something this afternoon, tomorrow?
Sure, absolutely.
You talked Sunday about the communication problem in the secondary. Is it communications between the two safeties, or is it them calling setting everybody up and involved? Does the miscommunication involve the cornerbacks?
Well, without giving away too much information, I think suffice to say that we just have to be more demonstrative and take more control back there. We're not standing back there like we are during practice. And I think Coach Van Gorder, if you were here at our meetings yesterday, made it pretty clear during the meetings how he wants those guys to communicate. I was in the quarterback meeting room, and I could hear our safeties communicating very well during film study. So we're starting that way, and we just have to be more assertive in the way that we talk to each other.
And is that problem particularly worrisome just against Michigan, which had a pretty good game last week and had a good game against you passing last year? Does that make it even a bigger concern going into this week?
No, I think where we are is that this is developmental more than it is one particular team. I mean, these are things that Max and Elijah are going to have to continue to get better at. Nick Barati is going to have to get better at it. Austin was very good at it. It was part of his DNA. That was his strength of who he was. These guys now have to take control as if they have that same kind of ability, and they're going to have to do it right now. And Michigan is on them now, and it's going to have to happen immediately.
And last month, early in camp, you mentioned that Max had enough on his plate. You didn't think he'd do much quarterbacking. Does that change now? Does he have to take some of the responsibility, or do you put more of it on Elijah?
No, he's got to do more. Absolutely. The dynamics have changed in that respect, and so that's why it's important that we put more on his plate. We were hoping that we didn't have to do that, but the situation has changed, and he has to pick up more of the slack.
And with the win in the bowl last year, you passed Michigan in winning percentage. How is that an important stat to you in this program, or is that just something you look at, when you're done?
No, I don't. I think those are important elements of a successful, long-standing, successful football program. It's something certainly that we talk about in recruiting in terms of the elite programs and the tradition of our program. It doesn't help us right now, but certainly it's something that when you're talking about the great programs of all time, it's something that we're very proud of.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm up.
Right up. We're going to just work right here in the front row today.
This part of the field. Just curious about update with Hunter and Grace.
Hunter's made, Torrey Hunter's made very good progress. He'll partake in some individual drills today. He's 4 weeks today since the injury. I think most would say that that is a 6-week injury. He is well ahead of schedule. And he'll be getting that kind of accelerated process today with some individual work. If things go well, we'll continue to progress him through the week. And if he has a great week, he could be in a situation where potentially he could play next week. So we're feel very good about where he is now at week 4. Jared Grace, it sounds like I give you great news and he's still not playing, but we're seeing significant progress in his gait and the way his foot strikes and some of those body mechanics that are so important to him to be at 100%. He's not at 100%, but he's getting better each and every day. He's running, he's able to now run the hill and do things that require that bend and torque that, he just didn't have coming into camp. So we're hopeful. I'd say we're still, a few weeks away from him being 100%, but we're really close on him too.
When he is 100%, are you confident that he can step in and help you in some fashion based on the fact that he hasn't practiced in this defense other than watching it mostly?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, we're going to put him right in there and see what he is capable of. He's so smart, very instinctive player. He knows football very well. Our expectations are that he's going to be able to assist us when he gets back. Now, it'll be conditioning and strength and all those things, but he's going to be able to help us at some degree during a very long season.
Corey Robinson caught a laser in the game. Wondered how his hand/thumb held up.
Yeah, he was sore, but everything looked great after the game. He's just he's one of those kids that just thought that was a great challenge in his life that he wanted to undertake, that he was going to play and find a way to succeed. And again, I think it just shows the kind of kid he is, that he's a little sore, but he's feeling confident that he can catch anything thrown his way.
You came in late, I think, the year to Notre Dame, the year that Reese, Gardner, Massa, Hendricks were all kind of in the mix.
Yeah.
How involved did you get with Gardner?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all. I knew him just from being in Michigan, and knew about the school that he came from close with George Porritt.
And sometimes players handle failure better than they do success. I wondered how Everett's been given the wild success he had Saturday and how he's handled that.
Good question. I think that's a very good question. Fair question, too, because, the first thing you want to see when you go in for film study is how you're going to handle the critical analysis. And I thought he did a very good job. I thought he was attentive to those things that he needs to get better at. I think, with success, you don't want to be infected with it. You want to be driven by being perfect. And I think he erred on wanting to be better at all the little things. And so I thought it was a very productive day for him. And I think we were excited about practice today.
Last one from me. Did you do the 12:01 Sunday night, Monday morning experience with the recruiting? And if so, how did that go?
We did. It's by and large Twitter-based now, and social media-based. So it's not quite on the phone, as you know. A lot of the guys that are in this room do it for a living. Guys just don't pick up their phone anymore. So, but we used our social media pieces, and again, it'll be a big weekend.
Brian, how much more press coverage are you seeing from Michigan, or at least from their first game this year, and how concerned are you with a Fuller and a Chris Brown and a Corey Robinson, who aren't necessarily the physically strongest receivers out there?
I think we've worked very diligently on their releases, and I think that we feel very confident that if confronted with press coverage, that we can hold our own with anybody. I think it's been a point of emphasis. I know that I worked with the receivers, on day one on releases, and it was something that, that we knew that we had top-end speed and that teams were going to, try to come up and take that advantage away from us. So I think it's something that we feel comfortable with, that we can get off the line. You may get your hands on us, but we believe that we've got enough technique that we can get off the line of scrimmage and be very effective down the field.
I may have asked you this last year and the year before, but calling plays against Greg Madison, what are some of the things that you have to take into consideration when you do that?
Well, I think, there's a bit of unpredictability with Greg. I think he keeps you off balance. You have to be prepared for, in certain situations, you're going to see a little bit of everything, from loaded bear fronts to exotic pressures. So I think you're really spending a lot of time in making sure that you have answers to a lot of different pressure situations. He really makes you stay up late, wondering about where those pressures may come from. So I think going against Greg is a lot like what we've seen from Coach Van Gorder in our preseason camp, that you've got a lot of different pressures that you have to deal with and be prepared for, which I think we've gotten a good jump on that going against Brian, and it has really helped our guys in a lot of areas be aware of the different kind of looks that we could see.
The NFL background's obvious?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can see it, and the kind of looks that you're going to see from the corners and safeties, and then obviously the fronts mirror a lot of the things that you're seeing in the NFL too.
A couple of your receivers were talking about after the game, when a play breaks down or Everett spins out and gets to the edge, that it kind of becomes playground football. I would imagine with Everett as your quarterback, or all your quarterbacks in general now, that's a big emphasis, something that you really work on. Could you talk about some of the things that within that you work on? Well,
we have rules where Everett obviously flushes and moves out of the pocket. There are rules for all those receivers, and they have to get to certain locations on the field. So all of them are tuned into that. It's something that we work on. We'll throw a play in during our Skelly or 7-on-7 that we'll call a play, and we'll have Everett get out of the pocket and force our receivers to adjust. So it's something that we spend time on, and our receivers clearly know that there's no area on the field that Everett can't get to. So it keeps them on their toes as well.
And what are the rules regarding them settling in at different levels when that happens?
If you're a short receiver and there's nobody deep, you'll turn and go deep. If you're a deep receiver, you're coming back. I mean, and then there's intermediate and backside rules. And in both instances on those deep plays, that was a backside post in both instances that kept climbing to the other side of the field. So it was actually a backside receiver in both instances.
Rewatching the game, number 92, Blankenship seemed to show up around the ball quite a bit. What did you see on film?
He plays fast. He plays fast. He's got some suddenness to him. It's what we saw in camp. He's got a lot of physical development to do, but he plays the game really fast, and it gets him around the football because of that.
And do you feel you have enough physicality at the Sam linebacker position, and is Tranquil a possibility at that spot?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have Ben Council that can play the Sam linebacker position. So, we feel like when we need, again, as you know, that game was spread. It was fast. It was, not a Stanford-type offense. Ben Council will play a lot against a Stanford. And when it becomes, even this weekend, if it gets into two tight end situation, Ben, we feel, is a guy that can step in there and play physical football if we feel like we need more size on the field. So we think we've got an answer to that kind of situation.
Thank you.
Coach, in this case of Ronnie Stanley, what technique and conceptual things go into changing from right to left?
Yeah.
And, making that adjustment, and how did he do?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you have to have somebody that is a really good athlete. And I think athleticism has to be part of making that switch. He has to be somebody that here's a kid that played on a very, very good high school basketball team. I think it might have been one of the better ones in the country. Somebody that is athletic is absolutely premium and making that kind of decision because he's changing hands, if you will. And then I think repetition. I mean, he has to get a lot of work. That was one position that we didn't mess around with once we moved him. He stayed there, he got the reps, and we committed to keeping him in that position and not moving him around. We made all the other changes internally, but that was the one that he needed that work. So one, the athleticism, and two, giving him that opportunity to really settle into the position.
And did he live up to your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, he's still learning it. I mean, I think there's still some work to be done there with his kick and getting off the line and getting a little bit more comfortable with, changing that kick step that gets him some depth off the line of scrimmage. That's still work in progress. But he certainly is somebody that we really think is going to be an outstanding player at that position.
And what finally convinced you that James Anawalu would be better at linebacker than on offense? And
I just think that his toughness and just his demeanor, the way he played the game, I think we probably saw it on special teams more than we saw it as, per se, a blocker and wide receiver. We just saw a guy that, had that innate ability to, attack and shed blockers and again, play the game in a manner that we felt like defensively it would be worth taking a look at. Now, we weren't absolutely certain, but that's why we took a look at him in the spring, and Brian had a great chance to evaluate him and say yay or nay, and when he got the chance, he felt comfortable with him.
Brian, I want to ask you about special teams. Unbelievable return yardage numbers in that game, punt returns, kick returns, and then holding them to 0. I guess your kicker is going to have a new song called Unreturnable.
Yeah, well, that'd be good. I think we're probably getting a little bit too much credit for it, and probably took a little bit too much in defending it in years past. But what I told our team more than anything else, the biggest difference for me was our ability to stick our foot in the ground. The surface really made a difference for us. I know that might sound a little bit crazy for you, but we were able to really make some sharp cuts on that surface and allowed us to get north and south. And number two, the effort was outstanding. And we have to continue with that same kind of effort. We think that the personnel shifts that we've made on the team has made a difference as well. But I would say that, when you're talking about the two returners, they're both fearless. And I think I said that at the presser after the game. You got to have two guys back there that, now we'd like them to, fair catch on a safe punt situation, but they got to be fearless. They've got to stick their foot in the ground and go north and south, and you got to have great effort. And those three things were hit and miss for us over the last few years.
When I asked about the running backs, you seem to stick with that platoon system where somebody would come in and have a series of downs. What I was curious about it, did you notice their defense making adjustments depending on who is in the backfield, and what do you glean from that for the weeks to come?
Well, defenses generally will make some adjustments based upon where our back is set, more so than who the guy is that's in the game. So we try to do some things relative to the back sets more than we do the individuals that are in the game. There's nothing that Coach Alford gave to me, nor that I picked up on film, that would tell me that Rice did anything different for each one of the backs. But they do in fact make some adjustments based upon the set of the back that's in our backfield.
Brian, to your right here. With Amir, I know Coach Denbrock mentioned last month that he maybe got a little bit in his own head last year. When you have a guy who has the kind of talent he has and making the catch that he did on Saturday, how much is it for him just getting the confidence to play that position and letting his talent show through?
Well, I think it's very important, and that was the case for a lot of players on Saturday. Winning is important, and then making plays. How do you get your guys to mature and progress? Confidence. And so I think that's the only way that they really begin to, emerge, if you will, is through confidence and winning. So the best teachers would tell you that. And so confidence is definitely something that he has more of because he made plays. If he dropped a lot of balls, we were dealing with a different situation. But I think he's gained a lot of confidence. Quite frankly, I think he gained a lot of confidence in the spring. He made some tough catches in the spring game. And I think a little bit of that confidence started to come out in preseason camp. And I was pretty confident if given the opportunity, he was going to make some plays.
Then with Steve, Coach Heaston said, he was kind of almost like still playing, he was playing tackle in a guard's body almost.
Yeah.
What sort of things does he have to do to get comfortable back playing tackle?
Well, the tackle position requires a little bit more of, you are confronted in most instances with the defense's best player. Whereas at the guard position, you're working a lot in tandem, right? You're getting four hands on somebody, you're working combinations, you're so used to helping. And it was interesting, Steve would take a set at tackle and he'd be punching inside while he's got a loose end. Steve, listen, you got enough problems with that loose end. You don't need to be helping the guard in this instance. So that's what Harry was trying to articulate, where Steve's got to worry about what Steve needs to worry about and not try to help, because he's been so programmed to be that guy that is either on a trail technique or he's on a lead technique, and he's always working with somebody else. And so that's that mentality. Ronnie doesn't have that. Sometimes we're like, Ronnie, you need to help out a little bit. You're not by yourself here. So that's what we're trying to get to Steve. And he's such a conscientious kid that you don't want to grade him down because he's trying to help on an inside stunt. But on the other hand, you got a speed rusher off the edge. You got to set and be ready for him.
Right in front of you, Coach. You've got roots in the state of Michigan. You referenced them when you were explaining your wardrobe there.
Natalie
Looks good
attire.
on you, by the way.
Thank you
I'm
so
glad
much.
you're wearing it, not me.
I appreciate that comment. I wasn't getting the same look from anybody else here.
I can appreciate these things.
Thank you.
Given how long you've spent in that state and the stature that the Michigan program has in that state, is this game special to you for some of those reasons?
I mean, it definitely is a game that is exciting to play for me. Michigan State, those games, obviously were the big games. When I was at Grand Valley State in Central Michigan, we played in the cloud, or we were in the shadow, if you will, of those games. So they always got the attention. So I recognize the Michigan and Michigan State attention that they have in the state of Michigan. So yeah, certainly for me, it's an exciting game, one that gets everybody's attention. But I will tell you that the games that we have this year on this schedule force you to really be balanced the way you look at this schedule. If it was Michigan and then a bunch of 1AA teams coming up, that'd be fine. But we have such a daunting schedule that it forces you to keep such a balance when you look at it from week to week.
Over the last 4 years in this matchup, whether it's been here or in Ann Arbor, every game has been close, come down to the last series or two. Can you put into words why you think that is?
I think two good programs that have such great pride that they're going to battle and fight to the very end. I think it was alluded to earlier. I mean, these are the two winningest programs, in college football, and that's for a reason. So there's an immense amount of pride. Both teams want to win this football game, and that's why, regardless of what the team's records are and what the personnel looks like, there's just great pride in both programs.
And this is the last time you guys will play for an indeterminate amount of time. Is that anything you'll use as motivation with your guys, the fact that there will be no more chances at this team?
I don't think I would use that as a form of motivation as much as, this is a great opportunity. You may not see a Michigan game, for a while, and relish the opportunity, live in the moment and enjoy this opportunity to play a great program.
Coach, over here. You went into Saturday, you had, Coach Denbrock as, offensive coordinator. It's a bit of a change for him. You've got a new quarterbacks coach, a little bit of shuffling around, and then you counter that with Rice coming out with showing some looks and some different things that you guys hadn't prepared for, more aggressive, more pressure. Yeah. You guys seem to adjust to that pretty quickly. Can you talk about your impressions of how quickly your staff was able to work together and pick up the adjustments and then start attacking them?
Well, Mike's a veteran, and people fail to realize he's had 2 tours here at Notre Dame. He's been at Stanford. He's been at Washington. I mean, he's a veteran football coach. He's seen it all. There's not much he hasn't seen. I've been around a little bit. Matt LaFleur is a bright coach. Spent, the last few years with the Redskins. Tony Alford's got some experience. I just think we've got a pretty veteran staff, and one with Harry that keeps things together. I mean, Harry does such an exceptional job of really staying focused with his line and making the in-game adjustments, while Mike and I and Matt and Tony, we're taking care of personnel. We're making sure that we're in the right looks, to make plays. So I think we just work very well together, and we'll see how that continues to go during the year.
Then a quick follow-up on Steve at right tackle. Is it one of those things where he just had to really see sort of the live bullet, so to speak, to really get a grasp of all that? Now you go back to film and you expect sort of a quick progression with him, or is it something that's sort of a week by week, we got to see how he develops?
Yeah, no, I think that's part of it. That's not the only thing. I think he certainly needed the live bullets at the tackle position. But there is a learning portion of this as well. He's seeing things differently at that tackle position. His angles are different. His point of departure is much different than it is at the guard position. So the speed is one thing in terms of, picking up that speed rusher, but his point of making contact is a lot different in the run game than it was at the guard, and he just needs that work and repetition.
Over here on your left. With Ronnie, have you seen him develop into a leader as a second-year starter? Obviously, you have a captain at center there, but what have you seen out of him in that regard? Ronnie's
got he's got a personality that allows him, he definitely, the room heats up when he's in there. Ronnie's in the room. I think he's definitely growing and maturing. I think that he's got leadership capabilities. I think every day, he starts to, show more and more of that. I think it's pretty clear that Nick is the leader on the offensive line, and I think Christian is probably right there with him. And then I think Ronnie is starting to grow into his role as well.
And I was curious, you mentioned Saturday that you didn't want to get too much of a pass rush because you wanted to keep a mobile quarterback in the pocket. Is that...
Well, I didn't necessarily say I didn't want to pass rush as much as we were making calls that were more for keeping the quarterback in the pocket because we were worried about him running it. I would have loved to get a pass rush out of those calls as well. I just want to be clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, is that opponent specific? Is that something that...
Oh, yeah.
So Michigan with Devin Gardner, another mobile quarterback, you'd probably be changing that.
I would think that we'd have a little bit more and a variety of schemes for Gardner, because he can hurt you, obviously, running the football, throwing the football. We're going to have a comprehensive plan for him.
Over here to your right. Cole Luke was kind of in the shadows in the spring with Kavari there and then with Cody coming in, but for a first start, and they challenged him some, but he seemed to really respond very well. Can you talk about the progress that he's made, especially adjusting from his role last year?
Yeah, Cole, very gifted athlete. I think what we were waiting for was, I guess, a sense of urgency. And maybe that sense of urgency wasn't there in a backup role. Once he became a starter, you could see everything elevate in the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he went to meetings. There was that sense of urgency in everything that he did. And I think since that day, we've seen a growth and elevation in everything that he's done within the practice. And then we felt like he played very solid at the cornerback position on Saturday. So we hope that that continues to elevate itself.
You kind of mentioned the same with Tarian Folston. You wanted to see him grab the bull by the horns a little bit more. Have you seen that, maybe based on what you saw?
He played well. He's elusive, as you know. He very rarely does the first tackler take him down. The players like to watch him run. They actually, when it's film study, the offensive players want to see Tarian because he generally has that move, you know, that makes somebody miss. So, you know, he's got that. That's his style, you know. Greg's got a different style. Cam's got a different style. I don't know, taking the bull by the horns and being the #1 back is what you're alluding to. I think all three of them had solid games, but Tarian did what we thought he could do, and that is he's an elusive runner, and he can turn it on and really eat up yards quickly.
Needing a more comprehensive plan for Devin Gardner. He ran for 82 yards
He's a
last
better
year.
thrower than the quarterback that we saw this weekend.
He ran also for 82 yards last year, was the leading rusher for Michigan against you. He had over 100 against Penn State. When you have that type of dual threat, without giving away any secrets or anything, but where is your plan more focused on as far as where he can do more damage? Does the running ability and having containment on defense kind of take a priority, or do you want him flinging the ball?
Yeah, well, you know, I think down and distance will have a lot to do with that, certainly. You know, formation sets versus speed sets, there's so many factors that goes into answering that question. So it's not as easy to saying, you know, what do we want to take away, as much as we'll have calls based upon formations, we'll have calls based upon down and distance that will affect, you know, what we do in that particular circumstance. And again, if they're in two tight ends or there's a fullback in the game, that will adjust our calls accordingly, versus if they're in a speed set and they're in 4 wides, your calls are going to be a little bit different relative to his running and throwing the football.
Back over on your left, sticking with the defensive line, but a change of pace here. Sunday, you described Sheldon Day as starting off well, but he got a little tired. Compared to Jerron Jones, 30-something snaps, what is Sheldon's ideal number right now?
Well, this cliff was about 50. So, you know, we just need to continue to build his, in the first game. He plays so hard. You know, his energy level is high, his motor is high. So it's just a matter of continuously building that up each and every week. And, you know, we started in game 1 somewhere in that, you know, 50 play range. We hope that it continues to grow, and it will from week to week. But that's what about it is.
To be clear, when you say cliff, that's where his performance just dropped.
Yeah, that's where we start to see a drop off.
Is there you'd rather have him on the field, but possibly a silver lining when your defensive leader comes to the sidelines and can share some of his thoughts with you
Oh, yeah.
on those off chances where he's getting a rest?
Oh, absolutely. There's great communication between Coach Elston and his defensive linemen as they're coming in and out of the game. It's really good. So they're getting great input. Mike's talking to them as they come in and out of the game. And then we're trying to get them in crucial situations too, so we're trying to be smart as to when we're pulling them out of the game as well.
Coach, on Saturday we saw Greg Bryant and Cody Riggs back there returning punts. Is that something that you want to continue throughout the season using both, or do you kind of want to identify one to be your primary punt returner for the rest of the season?
No, I think that we're going to continue to use both. Cody's taking a lot of snaps right now, and we want to make sure that we keep him healthy for the entire season. We cannot afford to lose Cody. So we've got to be able to give him a blow, given the circumstances. If he's in a, if it's a quick 3-and-out situation and they were on the field, we just have to be very careful. If they're on the field a long time and it's a punt situation, we've got to give him a blow. So we're just trying to get a feel for the situation, how many snaps he's taking consecutively, and that's why we're looking at that closely and using them both right now at this point.
And Coach, how important was it to get Malik Zaire in the fourth quarter and have him lead a scoring drive with that big run in the fourth quarter to get in the end zone and give him some confidence?
Well, I think anytime you get your second-string quarterback in there without an injury, obviously a positive thing because you're winning the football game in that respect. So that was good, and it gives him some confidence, and that's always good going into preparation for your next opponent. So always a positive thing.
Coach, with Onawalu making the change, how did he react when you initially came to him with that?
He's a very interesting young man. He wants to know that he has a chance to play, and if he has a chance to play, he just wants to get on the field. He didn't ask about whether it was for a short term or a long term. All he wanted was an opportunity. And that's just the kind of player he is. He doesn't get caught up in all of the minutia of, well, am I going to be here and get moved? All right, where do you want to play me, Coach? Beautiful. Where's the meeting room? And that's about it with a James Onawalu. Show me to the meeting room. And he's that kind of matter of fact as a football player. He's a fun guy to coach.
What did you see, or what did Coach Van Gorder see in his skill set that lent him to that position?
Well, he's got toughness. He's highly conditioned as an athlete. He's highly conditioned, takes great care of his body, can go all day. I mean, he's on every running team, too. And I mean, he plays a ton of snaps for us. He could play every snap. He's just, from a physical standpoint, he plays bigger than his size. And, he was our special teams player of the game. He earned more points than any player on special teams, and he stopped the fake, which is a game changer in itself. So he's got that awareness that he's playing all these plays and can smell out a fake on special teams. So that's just a little bit about James Onawalu in a nutshell.
Brian, overall, generally speaking, do you think it's a good thing, not just for Notre Dame, but college football in general, with the rivalry like the Michigan one ending, with the opportunities that are coming up for both you guys in the next couple of years?
I'm not going to go as far as to categorize not playing anymore as a good idea, because that's going to come back to me, right? So I'm going to stay away from that. I will say this: given the complexities of our schedule and not being able to play Michigan, it opens up so many other exciting opportunities for us. I mean, the Texas opportunity, Georgia, and so look, we understand the great tradition and the rivalry of the Michigan game, and if it could have worked, it would have worked. But it does open up some pretty exciting games in the future, and I think that's the silver lining that's out there. How'd I do with that? Is that pretty good? I know, you did a great job. Super, super.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, good. I got out of it without getting into too much trouble today.